They're strange bedfellows in the faction war, and one of them's going to have to get the upper hand over the other one. So people are wondering whether or not Swan Sun and INA Whitespear are going to make a move on the Fest Hall under the pretense of rooting out sod killers.
Ah, I see. Okay. Interesting.
So you've got a lot to think about.
Yeah.
Liberation.
Hey.
Last time you were at the Foundry, you managed to flex a little bit of muscle and get some of the elements at the Foundry, instead of producing weapons for the war, to produce useful goods for Sigil. Mm-hmm. So how are you directing your efforts today?
Mostly to because shit can't grow in Sigil, so making farming implements is a waste of time. One thing that can grow is Razorvine. You can't eat Razorvine, so...
Well, maybe you can. You're a Tiefling.
I'm speaking generally.
In the books, there's one animal that can eat Razorvine, and in the ecology section, it says that the reason this animal is useful is because it can turn inedible Razorvine into marginally edible meat.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay,
So what are you doing at the Foundry?
Can you come back to me on that, please? Sorry.
Mahogany.
I really think this through too much.
Mm-hmm.
The gymnasium is relatively fortified as best they can. A lot of ciphers are getting very antsy, like I mentioned last week. Some ciphers are taking up arms on either side of the fighting. Some are staying neutral. Some are just antsy because they're stuck in Sigil.
Mm-hmm.
Asking around about Jade Bull, going into the gymnasium, you know that very few ciphers were privy to that information, that Reese had handpicked people to go out to Elysium where Jade Bull was resting to take control of the situation. Go ahead and make an investigation check at advantage.
Got it. Oop, that's a 16 plus... Oh, that's right here. Sorry. It's a 16 plus nothing for 16.
Okay, plus nothing. The last anybody saw of Reese was a little over a week ago. And somebody in the gymnasium today heard it from somebody who heard it from somebody that Reese was searching for clerics to help a friend of hers. And that's the last thing anybody remembers her talking about. That was where her mind was on the last time anybody saw her in Sigil.
Okay.
So as far as you know, Jade Bull is still on Elysium?
Yep.
Still being cared for by ciphers.
Alright. Sounds like best possible situation right now.
Doing anything else at the gym?
No. Everyone mostly, like... The things that I put into place are still in place, and I have no interest in doing things that I don't need to do.
Okay. Does Mahogany have any particular opinion on these ciphers that are fighting on one side of the war or the other?
No, I think that's good.
You think it's good?
The ciphers aren't allied with any side. As long as we're on both sides, we're on no sides.
I guess that's one way of looking at it. Nath, how much gold do you have in your pocket?
Let me double check. Let's see here. Oh, I spent almost all of it on something or other.
Mm-hmm.
So like 60.
60? If you're willing to spend all 60, I'll let you make an investigation check at the Hall of Records to pull up Tivum's information.
What's the Hall of Records like when I get there?
Very peaceful. The Hall of Records, it actually has a perimeter around it, on very nice, well-kept grounds. that has a lot of what was one point was residentials that have been turned kind of into a barracks. The main area of the Hall of Records is this giant like fortress tower structure. That's where Kelian kept going to meet Darkwood. It seems like the Faded are doing a pretty good job keeping fighting off their grounds, and there's a little bit of like braggadocio about how so far they've managed to keep out of the fighting. You get the sense that the Faded are they believe they're in a position to clean up quite a bit. After the fighting is over, there's going to be a lot of opportunities for a lot of people to make money.
Are they making money off the war itself?
In order
Is it immediate, obviously? Or are they mostly spending it on... it sounds like they'd mostly be spending it on mercenaries and protection.
In order to get that kind of information, you're going to have to divert your course away from Tivum.
Okay, no, I was just curious if I would notice. But okay, nope, I am interested in finding all the records I can about him.
Okay, you grease a few palms. Go ahead and make your investigation check.
I'm going to spend belief points to reroll that.
Okay.
6 was the maximum, right?
There we go.
28.
28. You find Tivum's records. Everything was on the up and up. He had paid all his taxes, everything. The business he ran focused on various planner antiquities. He died very suddenly under what you presume to be mysterious circumstances. And his will cleared through the courts. Everything was left to his apprentice Lou, who took control of the shop. A lot of this you already know. She was selling portal keys, that sort of thing.
How long was he in Sigil?
Tivum was in Sigil for a very, very long time. A couple of 100 years, probably.
Okay.
And
when did he die? Sorry.
About 15 or 20 years ago.
Okay.
It hasn't been very recently. There was no major investigation into his death. A lot of people didn't care very much, obviously. Tivum was seen by the Faded, especially going way back into his records when he was first getting established, as just kind of a boilerplate. Like, there's no angle we can work on this guy. He's going to set up a shop. He's going to sell what amounts to, like, Sigil snow globes and pelican stickers and things. There were some investigations that he was fleecing primes that came to Sigil, but nobody in Sigil cares about that.
Was he an Indep?
You don't find any reference to his faction affiliation, which does strike you, or maybe it doesn't. I don't know. You don't know a lot about Sigil. It's up to you.
Yeah.
But it would strike like Riot and Kelian as strange.
Okay. Are Indeps noted in Hall of... I guess I'll have to ask Kelian. If would I know if Indeps are normally even listed as being Indeps, or if they just don't have a faction filled in?
Officially, the Indeps are not a faction, but unofficially they are.
And
so the Faded records would track that.
The Faded wouldn't keep it. Yeah, the Faded, for their own records, I can't see why they wouldn't write it in there.
The newest records that you find on Tivum. What strikes you is what is very funny is that you see records dated after his apparent death. Very, very recently, actually, within the past 2 years.
About what?
Just somebody pulled everything out, made sure that all the I's were dotted, all the T's were crossed. It looks like somebody was trying to look for an angle, trying to look for a hole to poke through. You're not sure who. You're not sure why. But, I mean, there's all this information up to his death, then just a little bit about the handover to his apprentice, and then the past 2 years, somebody pulled it all back out, rechecked everything, and refiled it.
Is there a little, like, quiet reading nook I can pull these into as I'm going over them?
The answer
Just
to that
someplace out of
question,
the way?
that depends on whether you paid as an official Harmonium agent who needs these records in line of investigation, or if you wanted to pay under the table on the sly to have them vanish for a day.
I paid as an agent.
Okay. Then yeah, there is an official place within the area where the records are kept for you to peruse them, but it's not a very private place. There are clerks walking around. People would be able to look over your shoulder, and that's not even counting what magical eyes might be looking.
Well, I don't think this is going to be too. I'm not going to worry about it. I'll just find some. I'll wait until no one's like obviously paying attention to me or watching me.
Okay.
And I'll just cast a quick sending to Kelian. Pulled Tevin's records. Interesting discrepancy 2 years ago. Would appreciate a second pair of eyes on this if you can get here.
Sorry, I'm muting my microphone because I'm coughing a lot.
Yeah, that's fair.
Try not to get that, Mike. But yeah, all right.
So, Kelian, you would have received that sending after an hour or two of being at the temple, since you were staying there, making sure you're keeping an eye on the oldest Marmy. Are you leaving the temple to go to the Hall of Records?
Yeah, don't see why I wouldn't.
Okay.
Oh, wait, no. I was the last person seen with Darkwood, wasn't I?
Yeah, but you're pretty stealthy.
True, I am stealthy.
You have 25 words or less.
You can't roll less than a 10.
I'm like
That's
Tower
also
Nat
true.
going to remind you, but
whatever. Let's make things fun.
Okay, are you attempting to maintain some deception when you go there, or do you just I'll take it as it comes? Nath's got my back.
I'm totally going to deceive.
Okay,
That's going to be the safest way.
Go ahead and roll a stealth check.
Okay.
for my edification, do you respond to the sending at all?
Oh yeah, he says yeah,
Okay.
sure. I'll
Okay.
head on over. He wouldn't leave you hanging. No. All right,
Well, I mean, if you didn't respond, I might leave before you get here.
I see
so
that
that's
before.
a 10. That's a 10.
Okay.
Plus my stealth is 24.
Okay. And you know exactly where Nath would be. Like, you don't have to ask around. You're able to just, where the Harmonium go to read records. So after another hour or so, Kelian, you arrive, and Nath shows you what he found.
Can you figure out? Is there any way for you to figure out who pulled these records? And I'll note the more recent updates.
Kelian, make an influence check with your faction.
Okay. Got that number here.
Why do you have influence with the Dustmen?
You tell me. You gave it to me.
Don't make notes about that.
I have almost as good influence with the Fated as I do the Dustman, which is the weird thing.
Why did we ever do anything with the Dustman?
Well, here's the thing. Everyone knows you hated Darkwood, and then he disappeared, so your influence might have gone up with the Faded.
That is a 21.
It's a pretty big no-no to pull records like this and work with them and then refile them without signing off on it. And you know this because this used to be your job, basically. But you know how to look into this. Like, you would be able to spend some time and use this daisy chain and figure out who pulled this record within the past 2 years.
And I don't think it was Darkwood because Darkwood never made that last link, right?
And
Darkwood's trail stopped with Eldov.
Yeah, if Darkwood knew where the stone was, that place wouldn't even be a thing anymore.
Right.
So I don't think it's Darkwood. But
Are you going to look into it?
yeah, I'll look into it.
Are you going to do this by kind of sneaking back into the records and filtering around, or are you going to ask some people in the faction that you trust?
I'm going to sneak around in the faction some more, because asking people I trust is going to take money, and I am cut off from my money supply. And
Trust
I
no
do
one,
not have
not
a-
even yourself.
I don't even.
Have you
I don't even-
mentioned that?
that I'm
like,
cut off.
Yeah.
Like,
if you pointed
Yeah,
out that's a problem.
yeah, he'll bring that up over the course of conversation. Like, normally
I can-
read palms and get info, but
2 teleports and we were into and out of the rat hole. It's on Sigil.
hmm?
I have some resources there too.
Okay.
A potted plant.
I can't do it today, but tomorrow, let's go.
Well, let me snoop around first before we
Okay.
get into spending money.
Snooping around,
It's free.
Kelian,
Exactly.
you know where to look, what locks to break, what files to go into, and you're very disturbed by what you find because when these files were pulled, they were done under a particular protocol that is basically used. It's like faction internal affairs. When a faction high up suspects someone in the faction of working against it, they'll use this particular protocol to look into things, and then they don't have to sign off on things. You've never done that kind of work because nobody high up in the faction ever trusted you enough with it. And that's why you think it's very strange that you see you are the one that pulled this file.
What?
Make an investigation check.
Oh, I'm so good at those. I should.
Hey, Kelian, you can roll less than a 10.
I can roll less than 10 on investigation, but you know what? I'm going to spend 4 belief points because I just want to make it.
What's your, like, is your reaction to that, like, anger, surprise, confusion?
That's it.
Like, you're just sitting there getting butt mad, just surrounded by stacks of paperwork that you're flinging around?
I mean, on the one hand, Kelian's like, all right, whoever's covering their tracks, like, bravo. Like, this is beautiful. On the other hand, it's his fucking name. Like, come on now. Do better.
So, this is all within the past couple of years. And most of these dates, you were not even in Sigil. You were off on the plains. You spent like a month in Mount Celestia. You were in some crazy forest on the Prime Material. You went to the City of Brass. Not only did you pull this file, you pulled a lot of old files of old collectors of magic stones.
Okay.
Someone was doing a systematic search through faded records of people in Sigil who owned or operated shops that dealt in magic stones. And you were the forefront on all of this.
Someone who would use you as a fall guy.
Over the past 2 years.
Yep. Mostly over the past 1 year, but yeah, it started a little bit before that.
Okay.
Was Lady a pain?
It was an anarchist. It was probably Riot.
I need to ruminate about this.
Maybe it was you, but you went back in time.
That sounds awful.
So do you inform Nath of this development?
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Apparently, I'm the one doing this. Who knew?
Find anything good? That was sarcasm, no one. I'm sorry, it does come across about the same. Do you have any particular enemies 2 years ago? I mean, obviously you're not exactly on the best terms with Darkwood. And if it was just every stone vendor, maybe it was him.
It is just, magical item vendor, stone vendors, right? There's not, like, any sort of stray.
Well, I mean, magic stones are in no short supply in Sigil. A lot of these were dead ends that just ended up being portal keys. Some of them ended up being, like, elemental compasses, that kind of thing. But yeah, somebody was doing a systematic search of magic stones coming into and out of the city, trading hands.
Using my name. I'm petty enough to think it was Darkwood, but I think there's something deeper here. But also, I want to make sure I got this right.
Mm-hmm.
Part of these records is Lou's shop, right? Like, they looked at Lou's shop and...
Right. T-Voom, the shop is still called T-Voom's Antiques.
Right. So whoever saw the shop, whoever looked at this, saw the shop and realized didn't think anything of it. Which means that they didn't suspect anything, even though I mean, he points to Nath and himself, know better now. So I don't.
Was there any way to find out? I guess not. If they were just impersonating you.
Is there anything else you want to accomplish at the Hall of Records between the two of you?
I think that's all I can think of.
Not at the Hall of Records, no. How much of the morning action is remaining?
No, this is it.
Is it?
This is what you guys are spending your morning doing.
Got it. All right.
You did it.
That just leaves Liberation.
I have
the
an
Foundry.
afternoon action.
Like hell. We're going to a dungeon.
Yep, dungeon time.
All right, Liberation. Time's up.
Time's up, I know. I'm going to find... I'm going to look for Ragnall again.
Okay.
And I'm going to lay out some of the things that we discovered just recently about something about this stone, and I'm not gonna get too far into the weeds about it, but Liberation's gonna say that there was this guy who was trying to who's basically trying to get one up over the lady, and I'm trying to figure out what I'm basically just trying to parse everything that's happened over the past couple of days and trying to get a fresh perspective on it. Like, what do you think? What do you make of this?
That's going to depend on like what you actually tell him. Like, how much about the Labyrinth Stone do you tell him? Do you tell him you know about this spell, and then we've got this old guy who says he can cast it, and it turns out he's Darkwood, and then I've got this crazy friend who thinks Darkwood's in the stone too.
I'm not gonna get that far into the weeds, and I'm just gonna say there's this guy who was planning on using this stone to bind the lady, and I'm trying to seek some fresh perspective as to what I should do with it.
he says if it were him, he wouldn't do anything with it because that sounds like an excellent way to get mazed.
Crosses himself.
Yeah.
But he also says that maybe it's this war is regrettable, but he's optimistic that from the violence, when the dust settles, that cooler heads will prevail, and then Sigil will be reborn as something better than it was.
Yeah, maybe.
We already, our own Factal recently transcended his existence to the next. He's still very convinced that Ambar was not mazed.
Liberation politely nods.
He seems to think that you're using this story about a stone as like a metaphor, as for just being lost and confused because of the war and not sure what to do.
And I assume Rose is still with me, right?
She's there, but she's disguised, remember?
Yeah, but so I'm gonna introduce him to Rose and say, she asked me an interesting question this morning, and I thought maybe you could help me explain to her exactly what it is that I do what I do. I explained to her that I do what I do because I want to see everybody reach their full potential.
And he concurs. He says he swings a hammer, Liberation breaks chains. Find your place in the world and do it well, and on the next life you'll be doing something better.
Liberation looks to Rose and smiles. Okay.
She still doesn't seem to understand.
Well, it's worth a try. Thank you for your time. That's it.
Okay.
If you're having trouble explaining to people why you do what you do, I have another faction to introduce you to. You might be interested.
She's looking for answers, not more confusion. You know why they're called the ciphers, right?
No.
Because nobody else has any idea what they're talking about.
It's a lie.
They speak in riddles.
That's fake news.
What is Riot's afternoon action? Are you following up on this Fated thing, or are you going to blow that off and do something else?
So I'm sort of following up on the Fated thing, but actually, I mean, I'm going to the Hall of Records,
Okay.
but I'm not there to do what Iona Whitester asked me to do exactly.
Wait, Riot's not going to do what someone told her to do.
Yeah, that's that.
What about Mahogany this afternoon? And when I say afternoon, it's actually going to stretch kind of into your evening action, just because movement through Sigil at the moment is pretty difficult. Probably for everybody but Mahogany.
I don't have anything super exciting to do at the moment, because honestly, I'm just waiting for everyone to come to terms with the fact that we need to use this sick magic stone.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go buy a jade circlet. I know what's gonna cost too.
Kelian and Nath. What are you doing this afternoon?
Well, unless Nath has other ideas, Kelian's going to go visit the locksmith, and he wants to take a survey of various informants and various informants and people he's told to. He's been had working in the Hall of Records.
Okay.
I think Nath will spend the evening in the barracks and with the Bleakers to work on, they'll cast another couple mansions, work on making sure food's being distributed, that sort of thing.
Okay. And what's Liberation doing? What we're going to do is we're going to play out these evening actions, and then these afternoon actions, and late this evening, I'm going to assume everybody's back at the temple to put it all together. So Liberation, what are you doing this afternoon?
I am going to go and locate. Who is it? You know what? No. I'm going to go back to the soup kitchen
Okay.
and just start doling out poi.
Okay. What is your explanation to Rose as to why this is important work?
It just makes life simpler. Like, I'm not having to think about all of the nonsense, like all of the terrible things going on around this city. Like, I'm not having to think about all that. All I'm thinking about is helping people.
She asks, why not think about bettering your own position? Why not think about how you can come out on top of the war? How you can make sure you survive it and make sure that you have some personal gain at the end of it.
This is not about personal gain. It's like, what good is it if I'm at the top of a burning trash fire?
And she points to the actual literal trash fire in the corner of the soup kitchen that two bums are having a knife fight over, that Father Mondo is in the process of breaking up right now. And she says, because even when you bend your efforts to aiding people, there is still violence. You don't have any way of knowing if you'll survive this violence. You should help yourself first, and then consider others after the fact. As she's saying this, as she's assisting you in filling bowls and handing them to Sigillians.
Cool. Perfect. I'm just gonna let that question hang.
Okay. Nath.
Yeah.
Oh, let's do Mahogany first, because I think Mahogany is going to be a quick scene. How
Yeah.
much are you expecting to spend on a Jade Circlet?
I'm expecting to spend exactly 1,500 gold pieces.
Okay. Roll percentile.
No, you can't tell me it's more or less expensive than that, because then the spell won't work.
As the DM, I'm telling you to roll percentile, and you will do it.
No, I'm doing it right now.
Or you are grounded, mister.
By definition, it has to cost 1,500. I'm having this argument with the Jade Circlet seller. 25, exactly.
Because the portals are closed and no Jade is coming into town at the moment, and because of the considerable risk of selling these kinds of pricey goods while there's all these fighting and looting happening, your 1,500 gold Jade Circlet is going to cost 1,875.
All right.
And therefore your spell doesn't work. Haha, got you, nerd.
No, it has to cost at least 1,500. It's fine.
Wait. Hey, what if things had gone the other way and like there was a surplus of jade? And
I'd be fucked.
Yeah, like.
Listen, magic's horseshit, not my fault. Honestly, I'm better off that I bought it for 1,800, because now if the price of jade goes down, I'm not going to be on the prime and suddenly not be able to cast my fucking spell.
All right, so you go ahead and purchase your Jade Circlet from a trusted vendor.
Yeah.
So you're like 80% sure it's real jade.
Yeah, I'll toss them some good berries on the side so they don't have to go fight over food in the ladies' ward.
All right, you can get it for 1,700 then.
Oh, wow.
Oh, really? Okay. I was just doing it to be pleasant.
I mean, this guy, the man you're dealing with is somebody who sells this kinds of jewelry for magical components all the time. He has a surplus of jewelry and a dearth of food at the moment.
Yeah. Okay, great. So Mahogany does something offhandedly and saves himself 150 gold. Cipher beliefs validated.
All right. Nath, how do you feel about being ordered around by one of the Sons of Mercy?
Surprised more than anything.
Because when you arrive back at the barracks, you're told by one of the members of the Sons of Mercy, who in no uncertain terms is not a Harmonium or your superior, that Ione Whitespear expects your presence.
No, that's fine.
And she's taken up residence in what was Saren's office. Last time you were in this
That's
room...
a little bit more upsetting.
So, Nath's never met Whitespear, but he must have formed opinions about her because his companions have talked about her.
Mm-hmm.
So what is his opinion of Whitespear going in, knowing her by reputation?
She sounds like the only sane person in the goddamn city.
That includes party mates.
And she tells you that she was going to send a runner to find you, so that she's pleasantly surprised that you've reported back to the barracks more quickly than anticipated.
I have to do the mansion for tonight, then I head over to the Cabal, get one there, make sure the food's getting dished out, make sure that we have people doing the fighting. Still have a job, you know.
And then she basically gives you the rundown of everything Riot mentioned to her earlier.
And what did this person look like?
And she describes whatever Riot's disguise looked like at the time.
And did you have them checked for psionics before they entered the room?
She kind of bristles at that, and she says that she's worked 30 years as a Justicar in good standing with the Mercy Killers. That when she has an excellent read on a person, it is impenetrable.
I mean, I mean no offense, and I don't mean to call into question your skill, it's just... Illusions are everywhere.
She's not used to dealing with level 17 bards, basically.
And they thrive on paranoia and keep fighting amongst each other. Didn't think any of them had gotten to Sigil yet, or at least not were aware of me. That seems rather overt for them, though. Maybe they're being overt in order to throw me off guard.
Death never makes that connection between being paranoid of a creature that thrives on paranoia.
Whitespear concurs with the whole Illithid thing. She's been sent out to mete out justice on several Illithids over the years. But what she wants to talk to you about, and you can, first of all, you don't see the tea kettle anywhere in the room.
Mm-hmm.
The kettle and all the mugs have been removed. She asks you how strong your loyalties are to your faction off-plane, back on, like, the Harmonium homeworld.
As opposed to what?
As opposed to Factal Saren and the Harmonium inside of Sigil.
I mean, the city was a den of filth and corruption. I'm sort of hoping that this will be an opportunity to make it better.
She says, already it is marginally better, in that Arwen Swan's son controls the prison rather than the despicable Allison Nylesia.
I'll just nod.
She says, no doubt working in Sigil these past few months, you've noticed that the city has needs that cannot be met by the Harmonium arm from the Prime material.
I mean, they keep their operations separate, but yeah, that's fair to say.
And then she very bluntly... Go ahead.
I mean, honestly, some of my superiors, and I believe I myself fell into this as well, often just looked at this place as a lost cause. There's a lot of cynicism there.
And she says, as long as the fires of justice burn brightly, no cause is lost. She very bluntly asks if Nath will aid her and Swan's son in facilitating a transition away from the days of Factal Saren and rebranding the Harmonium in the days following the war.
I mean, it depends on what you're trying to do with them. I have my own motives, I guess you should say. I mean, I think we're both high enough ranked for this to actually become political, and my intention is to make sure that the Harmonium are first and foremost a symbol of hope and help in the city. I mean, it's more important to me to make sure a dozen beggars get fed and make sure they're not endangered. Like, I don't like the hive. Let's just be clear. I don't like the fact that you can carry a gold plate from one end of the ladies' ward to the other, but you can't keep 3 copper moving across the hive, and that needs to change.
She says
make sure that make sure that the Indepts feel secure in their much needed enforcement of trade in their own part of the city.
Yeah, she agrees with a lot of what you just said. She says it's funny that you bring up plates, because reports of broken plates in temples in Sigil have been up 300% just this past day.
That's what happens.
Make an insight check.
Are you muted?
Yeah, no, I'm not. It took me a second to find out the sheet for some reason.
Yesterday, a third of a plate got broken, so today...
That's 19 on insight.
Okay. You find that White Spear is very easy to get a read on. She's, you can tell that there's not a deceptive bone in her body, and she verily, sincerely believes in the cause of justice. What she's essentially offering you is a position, a very high position in the Harmonium, because Swan's son is looking to replace Saren's people with his own. The good news is that it sounds like they're working towards what you just stated is your goal. A Sigil more free of corruption, more free of the stank. The bad news is it looks like the way that they're going to do this is by essentially making the Harmonium into a puppet faction of Swan's son. Like, he'll be calling the shots, and the Harmonium will be dancing to his tune.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what she outlines for you. Like, you could be on the ground floor of that, this rebranded Harmonium.
Don't you think it's a little... Don't you think if the two factions, and under my understanding of our relative domains, would be a little stops himself twice before thinking it. There's a reason judge, jury, and executioner often aren't the same person, and I believe combining two of them might lead to even worse corruption. Not that I don't disagree with the ends, but I'm concerned about the means.
And she says the problem with separating powers amongst too many players is the problems we saw with Nylesia, Saren, and Hashkar. Complacence, corruption. In Nylesia's case, evil.
I mean, I don't disagree with the thought that those are problems, but I think if you solving them simply by consolidating power is a little bit naive. No offense.
She says she expected that sort of answer. She wasn't... I mean, you are, of course, still a rank-and-file Harmonium man yourself. But she asks that you be open-minded to the idea. That everything...
I have people I'll be supporting in the coming bid for leadership and promotions, and I'll make sure that they have your ear, that you have their ear.
Okay. Now make a deception check.
13.
Okay. She's about to dismiss you when suddenly she asks, kind of out of nowhere, "What aren't you telling me? What have you not reported?"
I mean, is this between us, or is this official between our factions?
She says that a lie of omission is a lie still.
I'm trying to work on getting the gates opened, because I don't want the city to starve to death.
You don't think bringing a swift end to the fighting will accomplish this?
Honestly, that sort of philosophy is above my pay grade. I'm just going to open a door.
And then she starts pressing you for information. What do you know that she doesn't about the gates? What plans do you have?
I'll just say, again, is this between us, or is this between our factions? Because I have no reason not to trust you and give information, but I'm a little concerned about it leaving this room, quite frankly.
She glances to the side of the room where you see her immaculate Mercy Killer armor and her spear are setting aside. And she says, every conversation that I have is between a Justicar and the cause of justice. You are either aiding or impeding the cause of justice.
Sometimes justice has to take a back seat to compassion or mercy.
Good answer to the Mercy Killer.
She's the son of mercy.
She asks whether or not you agree with Swan's son releasing a lot of the prisoners from the prison after taking control.
Without having read the cases myself, on the assumptions that I would... Without having done the homework, from my understanding of the situation, yes, it sounds like that was correct. There might be minutia or correct cases of, that weren't correct, but it sounds like, on a whole, that's definitely the sort of thing the city needs more of.
Even though one of those escaped prisoners was later arrested again, bragging about having assassinated Factal Hashkar, strangling the life from the old man's neck.
Did he do that after he was released?
He did.
And was he originally placed in prison for something he did or did not do?
He was originally placed in prison for petty crimes that Nylesia was going to punish with death.
Well, I don't think that killing every petty criminal will stop the assassination of any number of factals.
She asks if you're the one who masterminded this scheme in the ladies' ward.
The food?
She nods.
Yes.
Then she tells you that she's very impressed. That she admits some trepidation when she received a report early today that you were a rogue hardhead, that there were concerns in the faction that you were circumventing the law, but that not being a mercy killer yourself, having devoted your actions towards showing mercy rather than justice. She says that's exactly the kind of thing that Swan Sun seeks to remake the Harmonium as.
Well, our factions have always worked very closely, so hopefully we can continue. I have no problem having an advisory board.
And then
At any rate,
she
I have a few magnificent mansions to create and a few hundred people to feed.
yeah, she dismisses you, and she doesn't give you further orders.
So yeah, I'll do the rest of my night action. I'll go to here in the Bleakers, create my mansions, make sure people are getting the food that we've taken out of the ladies' ward distributed within the mansions so they can't hoard it.
Okay. Riot.
Mm-hmm.
How are we going into the Hall of Records? How are we approaching this?
In seeming disguise.
In the same disguise?
In seeming disguise.
In seeming disguise.
As a wealthy fate.
Okay. And what exactly are you doing?
I am going to try and find... I'm going to try and wander the halls of records, kind of muttering to myself, looking for somebody who seems like they might... Here's my plan. I'm looking for somebody to spread a rumor with, who I think is going to spread that rumor elsewhere. And I'm willing to use my fated influence if I... to figure out if I know who this person might be. So I do have a tiny amount of fated influence.
Yeah, go ahead and roll that.
What kind of roll is that?
Yeah, you have 11 influence with the fated, so make a
Yeah.
check as though you had an ability score of 11, which is going to be...
Okay. Do I add proficiency or half proficiency?
You add proficiency to this.
I gotcha.
So it's actually plus 0 to the roll from your ability, because it's
Yeah.
only 11.
Ooh, you got a 1 on there. Do you want a belief or something like that?
Yeah, I'll believe point that.
Okay,
Try to do better this time, McDohl.
I'll try. Wow.
0 2 1s.
Wow.
You did.
Wow.
That wasn't
okay.
even our one McDohl. That was the other McDohl.
Okay.
Maybe the name is
I just want to be
cursed.
clear. I offered to roll your dice for you.
You now have to redeem yourself, McDohl, by rolling
Okay.
that d12, and that's got to be a 12.
Okay. All right, here we go.
Here
Hiya.
comes the third one.
No. Okay, it's a 2. I'm sorry.
Oh my god.
Another one.
It really was almost another one. I'm really
So that's
starting
that
to-
8.
Yeah, that's an 8 now.
What's the rumor you're attempting to sow?
That so when I find somebody, what I want to do is say, Brezak, have you seen Brezak? It's very important that I speak to Brezak, but in a way that makes him wonder, like, what's going on? What's happening here? Say, okay, well, don't let this spread around. Don't tell anybody this.
Is Brazak somebody that I should remember, or is it
Brezak
just
doesn't exist.
doesn't exist? Okay.
Yeah. I'm trying to warn Brezak to get all of his things out of Sigil. The word on the street. The Harmonium is coming. There's going to be a raid.
Make a perception check.
Okay. Someone other than McDohl want to roll that one for
Yeah,
me?
I'm not touching Nick's rolls anymore.
I'm
I'll
on
do
you.
it. No, no.
Nope.
McDoll's can't be trusted. That was a drop.
That was a drop. You said you wanted to do it.
Oh, okay, yeah. McDoll's can't be trusted. 2 1s. That's an 11.
Okay. So that turns into a 25.
Okay. It's very difficult to. You don't think you've planted the seeds of this rumor. Like everybody here is preoccupied with their own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But you do catch a rumor of your own. That apparently the last guy to see Darkwood, to be called into Darkwood's office, the guy who apparently vanished with him, was seen on the premises today.
I rolled really well on my stealth.
You did. You rolled really well.
All right. And once I've done all that and planted that seed poorly, I'm going to cast Ascending to Iana Whitespear.
Okay.
Ascending is, and I wrote this out so I don't know it's under 25 words. Fated pulling up stakes and leaving sigil. Lots of gear up for grabs here. Move fast and it could be an advantage against sod killers.
That's potentially interesting. Alright, so that just leaves Kelian then.
Yes, sir.
Tapping the locksmith. So how is this going down?
He wants to just take a... He just wants to take a survey of his informants, of his contacts, because he remembers that he told, people who, when he needs information, his people in the Hall of Records to just put his name to things. And he wants to see who's been doing that and who's been signing his names to these magic stone documents.
Okay.
So, not pulling anyone aside, not calling anyone into the principal, but...
Go ahead and make that locksmith influence roll.
He is going to take a survey of things. Alright. I should have... Okay. Yep. That is a 16.
16.
Yeah.
Wasn't any of your people. One of your people has unearthed some potentially interesting information, though. They have a contact in the Sensates, and they haven't been working closely with this contact because so far Locksmith hasn't been directed to.
Mm-hmm.
But he might have a contact in the Sensates, or it might be a baseless rumor. That the Sensates, on Aaron Montgomery's orders, have located essentially a secret cache of files, a secret cache of information held by Darkwood, off-site from the Hall of Records, inside of Sigil.
Inside of Sigil?
He knew that, it was kind of an open secret that Darkwood had stuff planted everywhere, but a lot of it was off-plane.
Yeah.
He asked if you want him to stop working on that and start working on this magic stone thing.
No. Start working on that immediately.
Okay.
I want to know what's in that cache. Yeah.
And that's what you guys accomplish before meeting back at the temple that night. So we're going to take our break there. And when we come back, you guys can plan what you're going to do tomorrow.